Hey there everybody, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while since we talked about the Gundam series. While a hiatus of the Gundam Retrospective wasn't exactly planned, that's pretty much what happened. Anyway, we're back, and today I want to talk about Mobile Suit Gundam, the Origin, the anime. The OVA one, not the re-edited TV one. Okay, great. The Origin is a mid-2010s anime adaptation of the manga of the same name. Sort of. The word adaptation is doing a lot of work here. While the Origin manga is a retelling of the original Mobile Suit Gundam TV anime with some differences here and there, the Origin OVA focuses on one of the series' most important and popular characters, Char Aznable. It's kind of a weird situation to carve out a chunk of the manga like that to adapt and leave out the rest, but then I guess it would just be a total remake of the original show, which I would also take, by the way. Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin's lead director was the man behind the Gundam manga, Yoshikazu Yasuhiko, who was also the original anime's character designer. Tomino might be more widely known as the man behind Gundam, but Yasuhiko has also been there from the start and is responsible for a ton of iconic designs. Along with Yasuhiko was longtime Sunrise veteran Takahashi Imanashi as director, who was responsible for shows like Blue Comet SPT Lasner. With such a strong directorial team, it's no wonder that The Origin is pretty highly rated and is considered a strong entry in the Universal Century saga to this day 10 years later. So with all that being said, let's take a look at Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. The Origin begins with a pivotal conflict in the One-Year War, the Battle of Loum. This battle displays the awesome power of the Principality of Zeon's weapon of war, the Mobile Suit, a manned humanoid mecha crewed by a single pilot that is so comparatively small and fast that the Federation's ship-bound weapons platforms just can't target them. This opening scene is chock full of references to the 79 series like the Black Tri-Stars and Admiral Revel, and is animated spectacularly. There's a part where one of the mobile suits takes out the bridge of a Federation ship with an axe, and it looks like a combo finisher from a Gundam Warriors game. And while not everyone is going to love the CG animation, as it does look very video gamey, at least it is incredibly smooth here and really sells the speed and power of the mobile suits. The ace pilot of the Battle of Loum and general MVP for Zeon in the early One-Year War is none other than the Red Comet himself, Char Aznable, named for his iconic red Zaku and his ability to fly at 3 times faster than any other man. Char takes out 7 Federation ships single-handedly, but while Char is introduced to the audience as a force to be reckoned with, the show takes no time at all to show us how Char came to be that way, as we flash back to his youth and an incident that would change his life forever. The first introduction that we get to Casval and his sister Artisia is as they lay in bed, listening to their father fly into a frothing rant through the wall. Zeon Daikun is an interesting character in the world of the Universal Century because he's incredibly pivotal to the early events of the One-Year War, but the audience never really knows all that much about him. Beyond what he looks like, Gundam 79 framed him as a philosophical thought leader and politician, and then leaves pretty much everything else very vague. Gundam The Origin makes Zeon Zum Daikun out to be almost a cult leader by the way he's ranting and raving, sounding like a fire and brimstone teacher. It doesn't help that they have him dressed like Rasputin, but at the very least he does love his daughter Artisia. Zeon is probably under a lot of stress, as the thing he's pitching a fit over is writing his speech that will declare political independence for the Republic of Munza from the Earth Federation, something that he believes will lead to his execution. But it isn't the Federation that takes Zeon Zum Daikun's life, as he has a heart attack in the middle of his speech and dies on stage. Even before his death is officially announced, we see the power that the chairman held, as the common people of Munzo take to the streets to demand that the Federation let the chairman speak. Among Daikun's confidants and political allies are Degwin, the head of the powerful Zabi family, and Jimba Ral, a political and military institution within Munzo's defense force, while Degwin Zabi plays the sympathetic friend to Daikun's widow Astraya. Jimba believes that the Zabi family is behind the assassination, using this tumultuous time, capped off by the chairman's death, to take political power. Jimba assigns his son, Ramba Ral, to be the personal guard of Daikun's surviving family, and takes them to shelter at his estate. His motorcade is stopped by protesters on the road wanting to see the family, but they're scared off by Kaicilia Zabi, the commander of the Munzo military police unit. Kaicilia is shown to always be scheming, even as far back as this, and she lets the family go, much to her brother Sasro's ire. As much as a focus as the Daikun family are, the Zabis get as much screen time in episode 1, and you gotta love seeing the family politics that would fester all the way into the One-Year War. You have Kaicilia plotting and scheming for her own benefit, Dozel being a big loud idiot who doesn't understand subtlety or politics, Giran waiting and watching for the opportune moment to strike, and Degwin, the patriarch, who keeps his tenuous grip on the family. Then there's also Sasro, a brash schemer presenting himself as the smartest man in the room, who slaps the shit out of Kaicilia for letting the Daikuns slip between her fingers. I would say Sasro is depicted just like his One-Year War self, but I can't, because that dude doesn't make it, as he is assassinated in a car bombing right after Zeon Daikun's funeral. The bombing kills Sasro and wounds Dozel because Dozel is just kind of built different, and while the origin doesn't actually say who's responsible for Sasro's death, it is heavily implied to be Kaicilia's doing. I do find it interesting that in 2 other pieces of material, the 1980 novelization of Mobile Suit Gundam, and in the manga, the plot to assassinate Giran, Sasro was killed by Giran. Poor guy was murdered by a family member, either way I guess. The Zabis use the death of Sasro to completely turn the tide of public opinion against the Rals, with anti-Ral riots breaking out and protesters showing up at the manor to demand the release of Astraya and the children. After being dispatched on the incredibly important job of capturing Artesia's cat, Lucifer, Ramba Ral heads to Eden's Bar. This establishment is home to his friend and confidant, Crowley Hamon, as well as other smugglers and ex-military types that have become disenfranchised with the Federation. The explosive anti-Ral riots all over the colony have caused Jimba's mental stability to severely decline, so Ramba devises a plan to smuggle him to Earth in a cargo container. He also implies there may be more passengers, fearing that Casval and Artisia will either be used in the Zabi's political game or outright killed to keep them from interfering. Ramba's intuition proves correct, as that night Kaicilia shows up at the Ral's manor, using her father's name to gain an audience with the young Casval. Kaicilia attempts to convince Casval to take his sister and mother and just go home, and surely nothing bad will happen to them. She then tries to intimidate him when that doesn't work, slapping handcuffs on the kid and telling him that she could have him imprisoned. But Casval doesn't bite. Instead of being afraid at the display of power, he sees it for the bluff that it is, and tells Kaicilia that he will never forgive the Zabis for the death of his father. He then commands her to remove the handcuffs, and she has no option but to oblige, and to get a dressing down from Giran for her continued scheming. However, with the Ral family falling from grace, the Daikuns have no option but to accept a deal, heading to live in exile at Daikun's former estate with his first wife, Lady Rosacea. Rosacea was unable to bear Zeon Daikun children, but remained a staunch believer in his ideas and philosophies. She sees Astraya not as Daikun's wife, but as a bar singer that stole her husband, and so she exiles Astraya to a solitary tower in the middle of a lake on the grounds like some sort of evil witch. Rosacea won't even let Astraya stay with her own children, saying that they have one last night together. This lady is so evil that she almost dies from the bad juju clogging her veins right there on the spot. This leads to a pretty heart-wrenching scene between Astraya and Artisia. Astraya explains to the children that they will be taken away and will go to Earth without her, making a false promise to Artisia to meet them once the moon has run through its phases 100 times. While the exchange between mother and daughter is very sad, it's Casval who I actually feel the worst for. Casval is old enough and perceptive enough to understand what is going on and to know that his mother is lying. On top of that, he allows all of the affection to be given to his little sister, bearing the weight of this changing world alone. The next morning, Hamon arrives dressed as a Federation officer, with a whole goddamn gun tank to boot. She demands the children come with her as a part of a special Federation operation, and doesn't give the Munzo Defense Force guards enough time to even check her credentials before the kids are barreling off towards the spaceport. If Hamon being awesome wasn't apparent enough, she also kicks the shit out of one of the smugglers / mercenaries that she hired when they try to get more money out of her, and then disarms the other guy just by yelling at him. When the Federation garrison inevitably sends out their own gun tanks to counter the rogue one running rampant throughout the colony, it's Casval who has the guts to pull the trigger on them. He sees the men in front of him keeping him from achieving his goal as nothing more than enemies, and only stops firing the guns when Artisia begs him to stop. The kids make it to the spaceport terminal and onto the ship, and as they depart with Jimba Ral towards the Earth, Casval and Artisia look out the window and see the moon for the first time. Gundam the Origin then jumps forward a few years. Casval and Artisia have been adopted by a wealthy man named Don Diablo Mas, and go by the names Selah and Edward, or as this show's dub pronounces it, Edouard. Very fancy. While Selah appears to be a well-adjusted 10-year-old with dreams of helping others, her brother is another story. While Edouard appears outwardly friendly and helpful, he has a cold, calculating side, and seems wholly uninterested in the teachings of Jimba Ral, who desperately tries to explain new typism to the unengaged teenager. Teaching isn't the only thing that old Jimba has in mind, though, as we see him meet with a representative of the company Anaheim Electronics secretly. He tries to lie and tell Diablo that it was someone from the social welfare office, but Diablo knows Anaheim's game too well and how they have their hands in many nefarious dealings. Jimba Ral is forced to admit to him that he talked to Anaheim about providing support to take back Side 3 from the Zabi family. The company pledged full support, and since it has a great deal invested into arms manufacturing, their support would be quite powerful. However, it is conditional upon using young Casval and Artisia as political pawns to oust Degwin Zabi, which is something that Diablo Mas has tried his best to avoid. As the caretaker of the children, he tells Jimba Ral to drop the idea. However, if the children decide they want to take on that fight in their father's name, he will dissolve the adoption and wash his hands of the situation. Jimba Ral begs Diablo not to throw him out, saying that the promises of Anaheim Electronics were too good to not think about, and how Munzo being recently renamed to the Republic of Zeon has gotten him all worked up. Even though Jimba Ral's plan with Anaheim Electronics doesn't come to fruition, these zombies won't let a scheme like that go unanswered. Zeon has been keeping tabs on Jimba, Casval, and Artisia, content to let them live their lives on Earth. But at the first hint that the kids could be used to usurp their control of Side 3, the zombies hire local mercenaries to attack Diablo's estate. Diablo is attacked by a guy in a full suit of armor who throws him out of a window. Casval and Artisia hide in the stairwell and hear him kill Jimba, and then, being trapped between the fighting downstairs and the night upstairs, they run back up to take their chances. Casval grabs a sword off the wall to defend himself with, and this gives the show an opportunity to put him in a cool sword fight. You always need one of those. I do think the night guy is kind of funny. I mean, the implication is that one of these mercenaries saw this suit of armor decorating Diablo's estate and decided it would be fun to put it on. But did this guy stop for 15 minutes in the middle of this assassination attempt and get one of his mercenary friends to help him put it all on? It's pretty silly, especially because it seems way easier to just shoot everyone. Like, I can't imagine Casval was going to bust out the Force and deflect bullets with his Maul Ninja sword. It also was just a deadly idea because he gets stabbed right in the face and collapses an entire scaffolding. Probably wouldn't have died if you just shot these kids with the gun that you brought with you, but at least it makes for a fun scene. Diablo Mas is much luckier than Jimba Ral and survives the assassination attempt. He learns that the men were hired by the zombies and now fears that he has no way to hide Artisia and Casval. That is until his old friend Yu Yashima and his daughter Mirai visit and give him an out. Yu is the CEO of Yashima Company and has just purchased the rights to an entire colony located in the Side 5 cluster called Texas Colony. Texas Colony was planned to be a big Old West amusement park, but was never finished. Under the Yashima Company's care, development has begun once again, and it could be a perfect place for the young heirs to the Zeon name to spend their lives. I love how they show a good map of all the sides here, and how they have some establishing shots of just how many colony stations make up a side. Sometimes in earlier Gundam stories, it's a little hard to envision just how many people actually live in space, or how a colony like Zeon could wage war on the entire Earth, but Origin shows you that a place like Side 3 is a sprawling net of colonies housing millions of citizens. Speaking of Side 3, we see that the citizens there are fiercely loyal to Zeon, and by extension, the zombies. Rambaral presumably lost his job after being an accessory to smuggling, as Kycilia promised to turn him and Haman into the authorities, so now he spends a lot of time at Club Eden beating up drunk Fetty soldiers. I don't know if he's the bouncer or just likes punching people, but the guy has pretty much hit rock bottom. That is, until Dozel Zombie walks in and offers Raul a job. Even though their families never got along, Dozel always held Ramba in high regard because he was a good soldier, which is very consistent with Dozel's character. Raul and Haman accompany Dozel to the neighboring structure, Dark Colony, where he shows them something that he says will crush the Federation, the first generation mobile suit, designated Mobile Worker MW-01. The mobile worker, piloted by future Black Tri-Stars member MASH, looks like it is decked out for construction work, not combat, and is anchored to a hardwired power generator. Despite the shortcomings, the mech charges through a field of fire laid down by a Black Market Federation gun tank and completely demolishes the unit without any ranged weaponry. It's quite a bombastic test run for the first ever mobile suit and leaves Raul completely speechless. Dozel hires Raul to help him as a test pilot, and the development for the very first Zaku prototype begins right under the Federation's nose. The Moss family arrives at Texas Colony, and we meet the resident caretakers, the Aznables. The Aznable family has a teenage son named Char who looks almost exactly like Casval, with the only real difference being their eyes. I love this moment where you think that Char and Casval won't get along, but then they high-five. Life on Texas Colony proceeds, with Artisia writing her mother and still counting the phases of the moon, until one day they receive word from Haman that Astraya has passed away due to illness. Artisia becomes glum, spending a lot of time near her mother's mock gravestone, while Casval has that vengeful fire reborn in his heart to the point where his school headmaster is fucking terrified of him and tells Diablo that the school can't really handle him. Casval's fury becomes apparent when he beats the hell out of a random guy at the Aznable's Wild West themed bar. He accuses the guy of following them, and the dude does look pretty shady, but Casval takes it way over the line and nearly murders him with a board full of nails. Artisia begs him to stop, much like she did during the incident with the gun tank, and Diablo decides that it may be best for him to attend the big school on Side 5's main colony with his friend Char. The only problem is that Char has actually dropped out of the normal school and has been accepted into the Zeon Military Academy located at the Side 3 colony Guardian Banshee. There's also a really sad scene where Artisia discovers that her cat died, and then they put a little headstone next to her mom's, and then Casval chooses this exact moment to tell her that he's leaving and won't see her again. Read the fucking room, man. Casval then reveals who he really is for the first time when he pulls a trick to swap places with Char at the spaceport. He plants a gun in Char's bag and then swaps clothes with him in the bathroom so his friend won't be late to his military academy induction. Little does the real Char know that using Edouard Moss's ticket is the last thing he'll ever do, as zombie agents follow him and bomb the shuttle. Casval uses Char's life as a tool, someone that he's known for years and has considered a friend, all to steal his identity and further his goal of getting closer to the zombies. Casval has now successfully shed his known alias as Edouard Moss and joins the Zeon Military Academy using Char's identity. He tells everyone that he has solar ray damage to his eyes, requiring him to wear a visor or glasses or else he'll go blind, which isn't the worst cover-up for his distinguishing baby blues. Char actually gets close to the zombies way quicker than you would think, as Dozle is the headmaster of the military school and Garma Zabi is a cadet alongside him. At this point, the Spacenoid Defense Force is still under the umbrella of the Federation, and we see how the division has simmered over the years, with cadets booing Vice Admiral Revel during their induction ceremony. Char excels at the military academy and is a pretty stark contrast to Garma, who has led a pampered life and isn't used to the rigorous training. Garma has the weight of the Zabi name, and not wanting to be humiliated in front of his classmates, spurring him on though, and this causes him to take risks. When the class is going on a 30-kilometer march in full gear, Garma ignores orders to shelter from rainy conditions and ends up falling right down a cliff and breaking his leg. Char finds him and in a chilling moment appears to weigh killing him before actually helping the young Zabi up and walking with him to the base camp. Garma takes a liking to Char and uses his connections to become Char's new roommate. This works out well because Char's former roommate was a guy named Lino who went to high school with the actual Char Aznable and has become increasingly suspicious of Casval as his time at the academy lingers. During Char's time at the academy, we see the continued development of Dozle's mobile suit project. While the project has taken years to develop a few different prototypes, the major issue with each design comes to the power unit. Giran points out that no matter how powerful the potential mobile suit is, having the reactor strapped to the outside of it basically is incredibly stupid. It's essentially a giant bullseye. So Giran tells Dozle that the project will be shut down. That is until the head of technical development on the project, Dr. Trenov Minovsky, assures Giran that his new designs for an improved reactor are sure to work. They will shrink the fusion reactor down and mount it inside the mobile suit, and as an added bonus, the power supply will output a large amount of Minovsky particles. The particles interfere with radio signals, making communication difficult, but also interfering with targeting systems on weapons, which would make the mobile suit even more powerful and the backbone of Zeon's military. Giran is impressed, and the project proceeds. We see how the simmering frustration with the Federation has festered when the cadets are fighting against regular soldiers during some mock war games. The Spacenoids are under-equipped and tasked with assaulting hardened Federation defense points, a task that appears to be specifically engineered to be impossible. However, under Char and Garma's leadership, the cadets successfully capture a Federation forward base and then use it to zero in mortar fire. When the cadets are gathered and given their results by the Fedi commander, Char speaks up and accuses them of under-equipping the Spacenoid military in order to make them look inferior. This guy gets all up in his feelings about it and decides to take an issue with Char's glasses, slapping him in front of everyone and knocking them off. This has the opposite of the desired effect though, as the entire class is behind Char and loudly demands that the commander pick up Char's glasses and apologize. Amid the simmering tension, there is an accident at Side 3 when a Federation ship ignores traffic and causes a crash that destroys an entire agricultural block. This causes food shortages and disease among the populace of Zeon's mother colony, which predictably breaks out into anti-Federation unrest in the Autonomous Republic. While helping clean the debris, Char and Garma are almost scuttled by a speeding Federation assault carrier arriving at the colony to quell the unrest. During this incident, Char lays his eyes upon a mobile suit for the first time, learning about their secret development from Garma. As the unrest gets worse, Char comes up with a plan, telling Garma that the cadets of the military academy should attack the nearby Federation garrison. Despite the Defense Force and Federation security forces being independent, the Federation could mobilize the Academy cadets as part of the garrison and send them to Munzo if things get too bad. On top of this, the Federation knows that Garma is part of the current class and could essentially hold him hostage for leverage over Deglan. This is something that Degwin himself points out to an overeager Giran who's chomping at the bit to test his military in combat against the Federation. Char manipulates Garma, using his sense of familial duty to convince him that springing a surprise attack is the right course of action. He knows Garma looks at the rest of the zombie men, and even women like Caecilia, and feels like he doesn't measure up. Fair enough, I don't think I would feel like I measured up to Dozul either, he's like 7 feet tall. Char will take a squadron of commandos to attack the base directly, while Garma sets up artillery during the confusion. Before they can launch the attack, Lino, Char's former roommate, corners him in a stairwell and reveals that he's figured out that Char is an imposter. Lino is a pretty fucking smart dude actually, and has researched Char's relationship with the deceased Edouard Moss and has put 2 and 2 together, figuring out that the man impersonating Char isn't just a psychotic ranch hand from Texas Colony, but is actually Casval Rem Daikun, the true heir to the Zeon name. Instead of wanting to rat Casval out, Lino is actually super stoked, saying that these zombies are murderous bastards and he can't wait for the son of Zeon Daikun to take his revenge. Lino tells Casval that he's totally in his corner and will keep his secret, even giving him the iconic visor that would become the most recognizable part of Char's iconic design. The entire attack sequence on the Federation base is really great. We're treated to the first appearance of those Zeon jetpacks that get used all the time in the original Gundam. The overall sound design of the weapons and machinery is super well done, and even the camera angles are dynamic and creative. I really love this low following shot that reminds me of something you'd see in a gritty war film or the Gears of War roadie run. I guess you can take your pick since the Gears of War roadie run is specifically made to emulate that style of filmmaking. It's also really interesting to see infantry combat in a Gundam series. Obviously, I love the mobile suits, but the fact that all the human-sized weaponry and action in Origin is so good and interesting really goes to show how much depth the Gundam franchise has. I need to give props to Origin in particular for showing that you can make an entry in the mecha franchise without using any of the mechs at all in the first half, beyond a few sneak peeks here and there. During the midst of the attack, Char sends his new comrade Lino to commandeer a Federation tank, and Lino gets a pretty cool action scene where he takes the crew out single-handedly using one of those jetpacks. Unfortunately for him, anyone knowing Char's true identity is a liability, even if they claim to be on his side. So Char tells the rest of his men that Lino died taking the tank out, and then it gets blown up by friendly fire since no one knows Lino's in there. Char then takes the command center of the Federation base, holding the regimental commander at gunpoint and forcing him to surrender. Dozul finally shows up at the base the next morning, having been distracted in his quarters by a cadet named Zena who pulls a gun on him. Dozul is mostly just overjoyed to see Garma alive and well, embracing him on the battlefield as the sun begins to rise. This event comes to be known as the Dawn Rebellion, and is marked as the true inciting incident of the 1-year war, even if tensions won't boil over into full fighting engagements for some time. The cadets that took part in the Dawn Rebellion are given a hero's welcome back at Zeon, with a full parade and everything. Degwin, being an experienced politician, is able to pretty much get everything he wants out of the ordeal, promising the Federation that they will perform disciplinary action on the ringleader on one condition: the Federation withdraw all their troops and ships from Side 3. Zeon has been autonomous since the Daikun-run administration, but has always been under the boot heel of the Federation's military might. Now they're one step closer to becoming fully independent. Degwin obviously isn't going to punish Garma. I mean, he treats Garma like his sweet little angel who can do no wrong, so instead they use Char as a scapegoat, discharging him from the military and exiling him to Earth. Also, I poke fun at Degwin and Garma's relationship here, but I really do love this characterization. Degwin is obviously not a great person. He's a dictator in all but name, but he's not a warmonger on the same level as Giran, and they do a really good job illustrating that throughout Origin. Episode 3 also contains an ending scene, giving us a glimpse of Amuro and his father arriving at their new home, Side 7. Amuro isn't a huge focus overall for the origin, but I do really like all the content with him over the latter half of the show. I also really like the depiction of the colony, as it's still under construction, and Origin drives that home way more than the original show. It's also really cool to see stuff like Amuro's house and the characters I love from 0079 like Frau Bo and Kai, and I think that the new context given to their characters makes them even more endearing. Especially Kai, it's great to see his delinquent persona that's only really hinted at in Mobile Suit Gundam. Episode 4 not only focuses on Char's time on Earth working for Jaburo Construction, hiding out and biding his time, but also shows us more of Tem's work on the Federation's own mobile suit projects. The episode also portrays the explicit death of Dr. Minovsky, the man behind all of Zeon's strides in the mobile suit sector, as he attempts to defect from Zeon to join Anaheim Electronics. This episode is absolutely jam-packed and begins by showing us the origins of probably the most important character in Mobile Suit Gundam's initial run, Lala Soon. Well, she's the most important character in the way of development for both Char and Amuro, but begins her saga working for a gang in the city of Manao, before being stolen away by a man referred to only as the Gambler. He uses her strange new type abilities to cheat a casino, and this is noticed by Char, who's out for a night on the town with his co-workers. Char, stalks her? It won't be the last time he does that to a woman. To the docks later on and speaks with her, learning that Lala sends all of her money home to India for her family. Their conversation is interrupted when the Manao gang blows up the Gambler's yacht, and the unlikely trio flee back to the Jaburo construction office. When the Gambler's former associate shows up, he thinks they're saved, but he reveals that the Manao gang are his new employers and cuts off the Gambler's head with his metal throwing disc. Char attacks him with a shovel to defend Lala, and this is the first time that he uses his apparent new type senses to dodge the rebounding attack. He then gets into the construction mobile worker and uses it to run over all the goons surrounding the office. I guess he's out of a job with the construction company then, but that's okay, as Char asks Lala if she'd like to go as far away as possible. Space. Good thing that Char requested that Dozel use him as a mobile suit pilot before he was exiled, but how he returns to Zeon and makes contact with him is left up to the audience's imagination. Meanwhile, Tem Ray is attending a meeting with the Federation's Joint Chiefs of Staff and is shown footage of the test flights of Zeon's mobile suits. Admiral Gop orders Tem to go to the moon to meet with the head of Anaheim Electronics' mobile suit program, saying that the genius Dr. Minovsky has decided to defect from Zeonic Company. We get to see how there is competition even within the Federation's own power structure, as the head of Anaheim's Moon Branch basically says they don't need Dr. Minovsky, as their RCX-76 project is coming along without any outside influence. Anaheim isn't interested in Tem's help or working alongside Tem Ray on Operation V. The guy goes as far as saying they wouldn't take Minovsky's help anyway, so Tem may as well take him instead, which really sucks for him because after Tem inspects the mobile suit line they're producing, he is not impressed in the slightest. The audience is about to see exactly why Tem Ray isn't impressed, as the Federation picks up the movements of Zeon mobile suits on the lunar surface. Rambaral, along with the Black Tri-Stars and Char, have mobilized their prototype units in order to intercept the defecting Doctor. The Iron Cavalry unit piloting the Anaheim RCX-76s are sent out into their first engagement to show Zeon that their mobile suits are just as powerful. This goes completely sideways as the Zaku's chew through these gun cannons like scissors through paper. The 76's weapons aren't powerful enough to pierce the Zaku armor, and the mechs are also much too slow to keep up with their enemies' movements. This results in the destruction of the entire Iron Cavalry unit, while the Zeon squad takes no losses. And on top of that, Dr. Minovsky is killed when he has to escape from his damaged vehicle, and a disabled 76 falls on top of him. Tem uses the failure of the gun cannons to convince the board of Anaheim Electronics to help on Operation V, revealing that his ultimate goal is to produce the ultimate mobile suit, the RX-78 Gundam. While this is happening, Caecilia is meeting with the mayor of one of the two largest cities on the moon, Granada. She attempts to get him to side with Zeon in the war, but he refuses. Caecilia lets slip that soon Zeon will be restructured from Republic to Principality and declare full independence. The mayor then perishes in a car accident on his way home. How convenient. On January 3rd, 0079, Dozel's fleet engages and defeats a Federation fleet while Caecilia's forces attack and occupy Granada, and then begin their assault on the moon's other large city, Von Braun. The war goes on, and we see Zeon engage not only Federation forces, but also other sides that hold an anti-Zeon stance. One such side is Side 2, which Dozel pacifies with little resistance. Dozel calls Ramba Ral to his side, who expresses that he didn't even enjoy the fight with Side 2, calling it a slaughter. If Ral didn't enjoy that, well, he's really not going to enjoy the new orders that Dozel hands down to him. He's informed that Gihren, now the supreme commander of all Zeon's forces, plans to deorbit an entire colony and send it crashing down upon the Earth. Specifically, he is targeting the Federation HQ at Jaburo, and Dozel gives Ral command of the operation to assault and remove the colony island Ifish. Ral straight up refuses to take part in this operation, dubbed Operation British, giving up his position as a mobile suit pilot commander and taking a 2-rank demotion. I love how the Origin shows us Operation British in detail. We spend a few scenes with the characters Yuki and Fawn Lee, natives of Island Ifish. Yuki is part of a militia getting ready to fight against Zeon forces alongside Federation regulars, and sees his girlfriend off to an emergency shelter before standing guard. However, Zeon does not use physical might to pacify the colony. Instead, they pump a deadly gas into the Banshee's life support system, killing all the citizens without even giving them a chance to fight back. I mean, I guess I'd take that way to die over being inside the colony while it crashes into the planet. While the Federation does try to stop the colony before it can make landfall, they lack the firepower to do any substantial damage. Zeon's plan doesn't go 100% accurately though, as instead of falling directly on Jaburo, the colony breaks into pieces. The largest chunk falls on Sydney, Australia, obliterating the city, while the rest of the debris impacts across North America. Beyond the deaths caused by the impact of the colony, many more lives are lost due to ecological collapse, famine, and disease. It is truly the most destructive thing to happen in human history, and we get to see how Gihren celebrates its success. Degwin speaks out against Gihren's bloodlust, telling him to learn from the follies of historical figures like Hitler and Napoleon, but Gihren just blows him off. Dozel, being the admiral in command of the fleet during Operation British, also struggles with his feelings after being responsible for such horrors. At first, he feels deep regret for the countless lives lost during the war. As he interacts with his daughter Minerva, he wonders how many children just like her have been killed. How many of them have been orphaned? But Dozel lacks the emotional intelligence to actually work through these feelings, and it seems like as a defense mechanism, he twists his disgust at the lives lost into a hatred of the weak, feeling as though any of the people who died were too weak to protect themselves. Meanwhile, we catch up with Sayla, who has been undergoing training to become a doctor at Side 5 capital Miranda. Pro and anti-Zeon rioters begin to clash in the city, and in the midst of the violence, Sayla is visited by Lieutenant Tachi from Episode 1. Tachi now works for Zeon's intelligence agency and tells Sayla that Casval is alive and to keep an eye on the pilot of the red mobile suit, Char Aznable. Tachi then returns to Zeon, going to Club Eden to warn Haman and Ramba Ral that Caecilia's agents are coming to arrest him. Apparently a 2-rank demotion wasn't enough, huh? I like how Ral spends his time sitting in the bar yelling about how these zombies are murdering monsters, kind of mirroring how his dad was at the end. Anyway, when the agents show up, Haman tells them to fuck off and come back with a warrant, and then no one really wants to mess with her, so they just kind of leave. Then she goes into a really good musical number. It's pretty sweet. Sayla returns home to Texas Colony at Side 5 and finds the Aznable family is packing up to leave. It isn't a secret that the man everyone believes to be their son is the ace pilot of Zeon, so they fear for their safety if unrest were to break out. They don't need to wait very long to be proven right, as the Wild West-themed village near Teobalo's estate is set on fire by pro-Federation rioters, who then set their sights on Sayla's home. Unfortunately for the estate's defenders, all of the weapons on hand are antiques, but fortunately for the audience, they're all really cool. Who doesn't want to see Sayla headshot a dude with a lever action rifle, or shoot a guy with a fire bottle and cause his motorcycle to explode? I absolutely love Sayla's evolution throughout Origin, from kid to absolute badass, and even leader as she riles up the defenders to fight back. Even though they're able to drive off the furious militia, Teobalo dies during the battle from the stress. His heart just couldn't take the fighting anymore. Sayla thanks the late Teobalo for everything he has done for her, recognizing him as her true father. The fighting comes to an end as everyone sees the capital Banshee of Side 5, Miranda, come under attack from Zeon forces. Too bad the Aznables also die here as their transport ship is blown up as it tries to escape. Fucking Char killed this entire family, man. After reporting that the docking bay at Miranda has been damaged, Char speeds off to rendezvous with the Special Assault Regiment. As the Battle of Loum approaches, indeed one of the most important battles in the entire war, we get a bunch of battle plans from both sides. I really enjoy how we get to see the macro planning and moving of fleets and such. It's something that you don't get to see a lot of in Gundam, especially the original show, because by that point, both sides have begun to whittle each other down. Zeon's main strategy for engaging the might of the Federation's combined fleets is to make it look like a straight-up fight, but to employ special fast-moving mobile suit regiments to turn the tide. Char's advanced attack softens up Admiral Revel's fleet, and really puts a spotlight on how ships can just not deal with mobile suits effectively. They're too small and too fast for the guns to target, and because they output a ton of Minovsky particles, they're basically invisible to radar. The tide truly begins to turn against the Federation when Dozel's fleet turns and appears to run from the Tianum fleet. But instead of fleeing, they are refocusing their efforts, appearing in Revel's midst and damaging his ships with broadside tactics like an old-school naval battle. There's this really great moment where Dozel and Revel's ships nearly sideswipe each other, and the two admirals can actually physically see each other on the bridge of their respective ships. I don't think that's exactly realistic. I mean, it's not exactly realistic for their ships to have giant glass windows anyway, but it's really goddamn cool, so it doesn't matter. In a moment that could have stopped the war, Admiral Tianum's fleet encounters the Great Degwin as it monitors the Battle of Loum. Tianum is faced with a choice. They could destroy Zeon's flagship, killing the Sovereign and blockading Zeon's homeland, or they can turn and assist the Revel fleet as it flees from battle. Whether Tianum wants to actually save Revel and regroup to fight another day, or he's just afraid of the losses his own fleet would take, he decides not to engage the Great Degwin. This results in a total victory for the Principality of Zeon and a turning point in the war as a whole. The Federation's combined 1st and 3rd fleets have taken immense losses and have to limp back towards Earth. And on top of that, Admiral Revel himself has been captured by the Black Tri-Stars as he attempts to flee his damaged ship. He's then brought back to Zeon as a prisoner of war. Revel does not stay a prisoner for very long though. After the celebration of the victory at Loum, Degwin becomes increasingly concerned with Girin's bloodlust. Girin speaks about the war as if it were a great crusade against the inhabitants of Earth, and it truly seems that he won't stop until he accomplishes planet-wide genocide. Degwin is not just worried about this, but also his own skin, as he has Caecilia spy on a meeting between him and Girin, telling her that she may have to take Girin out if he decides that the Sovereign is hindering his war plans. In conjunction with this, Degwin meets with Admiral Revel for a conversation about the war, and it seems both men yearn for a quick end to the conflict. Revel tells Degwin that even if he shares the man's idea of peace, there's nothing he can do while he's in chains. Soon after their conversation, the Admiral is busted out of his cell by undercover Federation officers / Zeon intelligence agents and spirited away on a Federation warship. How much involvement Degwin had in this secret operation is never revealed, but we know that he definitely greased the wheels to get Revel freed, and probably asked Caecilia and her intelligence agency to take care of it. Of course, Caecilia, and all of the zombies really, have their own motivations for keeping the war going. The show leaves this pretty vague, but if I have my own theory, it's that Degwin probably wanted to release Revel officially as part of a ceasefire deal or something, but Caecilia's men violently breaking him out of prison to spirit him away gives Revel and the Federation no real incentive to stop fighting. We get a pretty good scene where Char, in command of his new ship, the Falmer, comes across the escaping Salamis while performing combat training drills. Char boards the ship and even uses his cool laser pistol to blow a guy's gun out of his hand, but when he sees Admiral Revel aboard the ship, he promptly gets the fuck out of there. He tells his second-in-command, Dren, that the ship is part of some plan that is way over his head, so he's not going to mess with it. Besides, Char and his Falmer have their own orders to follow, being specifically told by Dozel to hunt down the Federation's rumored mobile suit project and destroy it. Besides, if Char recaptures Revel here, that would probably mean a sooner end to the war, and he doesn't really want that to happen. I mean, Char's ultimate goal is still to assassinate all the zombies, and it's going to be a lot easier to do that if fighting is still taking place. Revel arrives back on Earth just in time to interrupt peace talks between Admiral Gop and General Makuve, taking place in Scott City, Antarctica. Much to Degwin's detriment, Revel tells the story of the Battle of Loum and says that Earthnoids should never forgive Zeon for what they've done during the war. Revel takes responsibility for the loss and inspires his people to fight on, essentially sinking the peace talks, which, let's be honest, were probably not going to go exactly to plan due to Caecilia and Girin's meddling anyway. I mean, Caecilia straight up tells Makuve that he'll really be going to Earth to lead the invasion. At the very least, both sides agree to a shaky treaty that prohibits the use of nuclear weapons and using giant asteroids in colonies as mega bombs, which is a pretty big factor in why the war becomes a stalemate until the original Mobile Suit Gundam begins. As Revel's speech goes on, we get a glimpse of the characters who would play an important role on the White Base during the closing months of the one-year war. It's a fitting and nostalgic send-off to the OVA, especially with the added context to a lot of the Side 7 characters. Amuro ends up trying to get into the restricted sector of his colony, wanting to figure out if his dad really works for the military, and name drops the Gundam. This causes a bunch of government agents to go to his house and remove all the equipment from Tem's office, which I guess is why he only has the instruction manual in the original anime. At least that sort of explains why Amuro can pilot the Gundam so fast. He's been studying the thing for months. And that is the story of Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin, more or less. The Origin is an OVA that I have really enjoyed through multiple viewings, and while I have some nitpicks with it here and there, I think it's in the upper echelon of Universal Century content. One criticism that I see leveled at it quite a bit is that it makes Char too central to many of the events of the one-year war, which I can see that criticism making sense. Personally though, with the great animation, music, and action, I think I can enjoy it even as a little bit of Char fanfiction. So what are your thoughts on Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin? Are you like me and want to immediately rewatch the 1979 show right after? Because I really got the itch. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you again soon. Hey there everyone, and welcome to today's end card. Let me start off as always by thanking the channel members, aka Batosai, Argent, Griever, Azure Windress, Brian Sanchez, Chris Goodnow, Daniel Johnson, Dane O'Connor, Grim07, Harmonious, Hidden Insanity, Jessica Solberg, Jay Lamb, Joe Castellanos, Joe Cavazos, Johnny G, Canto 20, McLean Nugent, Mackenzie Cunning, MB, Rother the Paladin, The Crawl, Trey Hardy, The Twisted Mentat, Zappa Slave, and Zach Jones. Thank you all so much for being channel members. It means a lot to me. Also, sorry if there's like some name screw-ups here. Recently, YouTube started displaying channel members by the handles instead of the actual username. So some of those are different for some of you guys. So I've been trying to like click on the ones and find the usernames because I'd rather use the actual like channel names instead of the handles. I really don't like those. So if I fuck them up, I'm sorry. Anyway, we talked about Gundam The Origin today, which, man, Gundam The Origin's really good. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now, both in Japanese and in the dub. and it's always just a really fun watch with great music. It just leaves me feeling so nostalgic for the 1979 show. Coming up next, I don't think I've announced it yet, but the next video will be Code Geass Season 1, and then we'll be doing Gundam Thunderbolt, both the OVA movies, as one video, I believe, and then Code Geass Season 2. So I have never seen Code Geass before. At the time of recording this, I have seen the whole first season, and wow, what a good, fun show that was. I want to know, if you're watching now, there is a OVA that takes place between both seasons called Akito the Exiled, and I'm wondering, should I watch that before season 2, or because I believe that came out like years later in the 2010s. So I don't know if I should watch that before season 2, or if I should watch season 2 and leave that as a separate thing later. So if you have an opinion on that, let me know down below. Also, if you've stayed this long, you may want to check out the gaming channel over there. We are doing Let's Plays on, currently we're almost done with Paper Mario. I think there's probably only like a few hours left in that game. I'm pretty proud of actually sticking with it, because I have a tendency on like RPGs and things that are over 10 or so hours to like just kind of lose interest after a while on the gaming channel, but I'm trying to be better this year and actually like upload every day. And so far I have. And we are going through Gears of War 2, which is just a classic on the 360. And after that, we'll be doing Gears 3, because I wanted to get Gears 2 and 3 all situated. But I don't know what I'm going to be doing after Paper Mario. Maybe another Pokemon game, maybe another RPG on like the DS or like the PSP, a console or handheld I haven't done a series for. That would be kind of cool to check out. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you again before January is out for Code Geass Season 1. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.